people living in a building in Vyali Kava, Bangalore. All of a sudden, there was a bad smell starts coming from the apartment of a resident. At first, the smell was very faint, but as the days passed, the smell became more and more intolerable, after which the people living there called the landlord of the apartment and complained about it. Landlord reached there and called the mother of the resident of that apartment because she also lived in Bangalore. The next day, when they opened the door of the apartment, they were horrified as they found small pieces of a human being and blood splattered there. But after all, they had the question about whose body parts are there and who is the person who did all this? Let's know a little more about today's case revolving around Mahalakshmi. She belonged to a Nepali family, but around 35 years ago, her family decided to shift from Nepal to Bangalore for a better life. She had 3 siblings. She was the second oldest child in the family. Even though all these people were Nepalese, but still Mahalakshmi and her siblings were brought up in Bangalore, as they all grew up there only. Their nature was very much like Bangalorean. As the children of this family were growing up one by one, either for a job or because of marriage, they were getting separated as a family. Being the second oldest daughter in 2019, Mahalakshmi also got married to a man named Hemant Das, and both of them were lived in Bangalore in the house of Hemant Das. So, now you would understand this thing. The entire family didn't live together even though they were in the same city in Bangalore. Mahalakshmi had a lovely 4-year-old daughter, and you think that because they have a baby girl, so they would be a happily married couple. But the truth was far from that. There were very few good moments between Hemant and Mahalakshmi in their 4-year marriage, and their entire marriage was full of arguments and fights. And because these battles were so much more continuous and so much more escalating, therefore, in October 2023, both of them decided to get a divorce. After the separation, Mahalakshmi went to her mother's house with her daughter to stay, and his mother wanted to know what would be the reason of fight between these two. So, to understand better, we need to know a little more about their background. In fact, both Hemant and Mahalakshmi used to work and run their house. Hemant had his own mobile shop where he used to be busy from morning to evening, and Mahalakshmi also used to work in the beauty shop of a mall. But the problem started when Hemant noticed that Mahalakshmi allegedly getting very close with male co-workers in her job. Initially, Hemant did not think much about it, but as he noticed and observed, he came to know that she was in an illicit relationship with a man named Ashraf. Ashraf hailed from Uttarakhand and had an extramarital affair with Mahalakshmi. Ashraf also came to Bangalore same as Mahalakshmi's family for a better life. Mahalakshmi used to talk to him regularly. She even used to go to short trips with him, due to which Hemant's suspicion became even more clear, and eventually Hemant came to know that Mahalakshmi, her wife, is cheating on him, and he decided to give a divorce. Normally what happens in a divorce is that the mother always wants the custody of her child to be given to her, because if the children are too young, then mom would be better for a kid. But that wasn't the case here. Just 4 months after the divorce, Mahalakshmi had given her daughter's custody back to her husband. Now Mahalakshmi was living alone, and Hemant and his daughter lived together. That is why Mahalakshmi used to visit her daughter on a weekly basis or sometimes on a monthly basis. Now, you must be thinking that when she is going back to meet her son, Hemant will also be there. Then those people must be fighting with each other. But it wasn't like that at all. Both of them kept their problems aside and focused more on raising their daughter. After divorce, they both were ready to coexist for their daughter in peace and in harmony. But meanwhile, Mahalakshmi moves out of her mother's house, and she had started living in a rented apartment in the Vyali Kava area of Bangalore. Now question arises, why did Mahalakshmi do this? The exact reason for this is unknown, but it may be because there may have been some dispute with her mom, not completely sure about this, due to which she took the decision to live alone. It had been a year since Mahalakshmi and Hemant's divorce, and Mahalakshmi's life was pretty much the same as before. Now the biggest difference in her life was now she lived alone, and she was not so much in touch with her husband and her family. Now apparently, even after moving into this new apartment, Mahalakshmi was not very social. She didn't know anyone in her neighborhood. She didn't even make any friends there. It was because Mahalakshmi had to go to work in the morning. Then she used to come back late from wherever she used to go for work. The time she used to be in this apartment was very less. She was seen by the neighbors a few times, and even on Sundays, she would either go for a shopping or she would not come out of her apartment. This all meant that she never used to meet anyone out there. This is the only reason why the neighbor besides her apartment didn't know much about her. They just knew a girl lives in this apartment. Now again, if you try to understand, Mahalakshmi life was a little weird. Now at first, she had lost her husband and her child due to her extramarital affairs, and now she lived alone apart from her family. She only used to meet people she had affairs with. Even after the divorce, it is speculated that she had multiple boyfriends. And she was not ready to settle, or those people who were not ready to settle. So everything for Mahalakshmi was going in a straight line. But suddenly, in September, Mahalakshmi disappeared. On 19th August, on the day of Raksha Bandhan, Mahalakshmi was last seen with her family. The last call was made from Mahalakshmi's phone was on 2nd September. But since then, there was no trace of Mahalakshmi. The people of Mahalakshmi's apartment building also noticed that they had not seen her for a long time, but because they didn't know much about her, so they didn't pay much attention to it. Because as I said, Mahalakshmi earlier also did not go out of her apartment much. But things take a dark turn when on the 21st of September, the people living there noticed a very bad smell was coming out of her apartment. Actually, this smell had started coming a few days ago, but now it had become so strong that people were finding it difficult to live there. That is why they informed the landlord there, after which he came there to investigate the things going on. Now everyone in that building, near that apartment, was sure that this smell is coming from Mahalakshmi's apartment. Surprisingly, the door was locked from outside, which meant there's no one inside the apartment. And landlord tried to call Mahalakshmi's, but she did not pick up the phone, so the landlord called her emergency number. And this call went to her mother on hearing that her daughter is missing and bad smell is coming from her apartment. Her mother was very scared after hearing this. Landlord told her that when you will come here, we will have to break the lock. But thankfully, Mahalakshmi's mother had a spare key to her apartment. That is why on the very next day of the call, Mahalakshmi's mother came to the apartment and she opened the door, and then Mahalakshmi's mother, the landlord and some neighbor had gone inside her room. As soon as the door was opened, a very foul smell was coming from there. That's why some neighbors stayed outside the door, only as the smell was very unpleasant. But Mahalakshmi's mother dared to go inside, and then what she saw was more terrible than any bad dream. Blood was splattered on the walls and floor of the apartment. Body parts of a human were scattered all over the place. Seeing this, all the people were filled with fear, and before they could see anything else, they ran out of that room. Some of the neighbors then called the police. When the police reached there, they had to wear 2 or 3 masks just to get in, and despite all these precautions, many of them started vomiting because of terrible smell. Police also recovered blood-stained female clothes and shoes from there. The police had realized that the body parts had been lying there for a long time. But the real horror was going to come next. Police also called the forensic teams there, and one by one all the body parts were retrieved from the room. They also saw a 175-liter fridge that was half open and blood was dripping from it. When they fully opened the fridge, they found more body parts stacked inside. There were worms on the flesh, and at the same time, the head of Mahalakshmi was also found there, after which it was confirmed that all these pieces were of 29-year-old Mahalakshmi. Seeing all this, Mahalakshmi's mother fainted. This apartment was no less than a nightmare for her, and now the police had 59 body parts. According to the forensic report, Mahalakshmi's death occurred around 19 days ago, which explains why such a foul smell was coming from there, and why did the worms accumulate in the fridge. So the police started investigating immediately. They were checking the background of Mahalakshmi. So the first person who came to suspicion in her background was Hemant Das, the husband of Mahalakshmi. The police called Hemant for questioning, but when Hemant came to talk to them, they realized the matter that Hemant couldn't able to done that. This was because the forensic recording had got the estimate date of Mahalakshmi's death, and also an estimate time of her death. And according to Hemant, he had never visited Mahalakshmi's house on those dates. So, this was proved afterwards also, so there was a little bit of time gap in between. When Hemant had told the police that he had not gone to Mahalakshmi's house, the policemen also agreed with Hemant's statement at that time, but were not sure about it. But when a few days had passed, the police checked the CCTV footage and found that Hemant had not actually come near her house, but was roaming around his own house. So it was proved that he wasn't lying. This was a setback for the police. But Hemant told him about Mahalakshmi's boyfriend Ashraf. And at the same time, Hemant said that according to him, Ashraf killed Mahalakshmi. That's why the police caught Ashraf from Mahalakshmi's workplace. But police came to know that Mahalakshmi and Ashraf had separated a long time ago. And again, after investigation, police got to know that Ashraf was also not a murderer of Mahalakshmi. Now, after knowing this thing from Ashraf, the police had become very clueless at that time because they had to prime suspects and to close people of Mahalakshmi. Neither of them had gone to Mahalakshmi's house nor seen around her house, and the most important thing was that there were CCTV cameras in the colony. But there was no CCTV camera near her apartment to know who had gone to Mahalakshmi's house last time. So they were brainstorming ideas to solve this case. But then police found that when they were questioning the people present in the workplace of Mahalakshmi, at that time, they had called every person working there for interrogation, so that no stone would be left unturned. But only one person out of all those did not come to the police station, and that was 31 one-year-old Mukti Ranjan Roy now, because Mukti did not come to the police station for interrogation. The direct suspicion of the police went to Mukti. Now, as I told you, it had been a long time since Hemant gave his statement, after which they checked the CCTV footage, and then they found that Mukti had been seen multiple times in the CCTV cameras that are not so far away from Mahalakshmi's apartment. After seeing the CCTV footage, the police was convinced that Mukti had something to do with this murder. Police immediately went to the workplace and got to know that Mukti had not come to the workplace for last 1 week. And they found that one of Mukti's brothers also lived in Electronic City in Bangalore, and his name was Smriti Ranjan. The police did not waste any time and immediately went to Smriti to question him. He got a little scared seeing police. Initially, Smriti was trying to mislead the police, but the police did not have any time for this. So when they questioned Smriti a little strictly, he told the truth. So he told the police that after Mahalakshmi's death, her brother Mukti had contacted Smriti, and he then told everything to Smriti. She also advised Smriti to shift his house as soon as possible, because Mukti was afraid that the police would come to Samita's house while searching for him. And moreover, Mukti had also asked Smriti for some money to hide or to escape from police. The police also traced Mukti's phone, in which they saw his last location in West Bengal. That is why the police sent 3 teams to West Bengal. But they could not find Mukti there either. Now the last place where Mukti could have been was Bhadrak village in Odisha, because Mukti had gone there earlier too. And it is also said that some of Mukti's friends or relatives used to live there. But by the time the police reached there, it was too late. On 25th September, by the time the police reached Odisha to meet Mukti, Mukti had left this world because he had hanged himself from a tree, and whatever details of this case were there, whatever truth was there, had gone with Mukti. But after his death, the police found a note written by Mukti in which he had told his side of the story. And by putting that note and Hemant's statement together, we get such a horrifying motive about this case that the case becomes absolutely clear. According to Mukti's notes, Mahalakshmi was a very hot-tempered and money-minded girl. Her anger was so intense that she could do anything in a fit of rage. Hemant had already told the police that whenever they both used to have arguments, Mahalakshmi would often resort to physical violence. She would even bite Hemant like an animal using her teeth. According to Mukti, he and Mahalakshmi were in a relationship for the past 6 months, and Mahalakshmi wanted to marry Mukti and would constantly demand money from him, which Mukti could no longer provide her. But Mukti knew about Mahalakshmi's past and also knew that she had affairs with other men even after being married. This whole thing is again according to Mukta's notes, that is why he did not want to marry her. There used to be constant fights between them over this issue, and sometimes it used to get so escalated that the sound of their fight and arguments can be heard outside of her apartment also. On 3rd September, when Mukti went to Mahalakshmi's apartment, Mahalakshmi again started arguing about marriage, and soon these arguments turned into a scuffle. Mukti also mentioned that Mahalakshmi's anger used to irritate him a lot, and he was just fed up with Mahalakshmi's constant demand of money. This time when the matter reached to a fight, he got angry and hit Mahalakshmi's head with a very hard object in his anger. Later he realized that he has killed Mahalakshmi. He was very scared. Due to this fear, he sat next to Mahalakshmi's body all night, and he kept searching on the internet how to dispose of a body. The next day, on 4th September, around 11 a.m., he went to a nearby utensils shop. From there he bought a sharp knife, which was also captured on CCTV camera. Since the place was very crowded, so even after cutting the body into pieces, he could not take it out to dispose it. That's why he stuffed the body parts in the fridge, and after switching off his phone, he fled from there. So all this happened in this case, according to Mukta's notes and the statements of other people. But you must be wondering why Mukti killed himself? See, this was not a planned murder. He did this thing completely out of the blue. And he was not even prepared for what was about to happen. He was actually scared. So it is possible that Mukti must have gone into so much guilt that he would not be able to bear that he killed a person and he is still alive. That happens in a lot of cases. There have been many times in the past that someone who has committed murder, or if they commit some crime, then they punish themselves. But Mukti was very much scared of police, and he didn't want to get caught by the police. That's why he took such step. And with that the case finally ends here. And then there's no one to punish in this case. Before you go guys, if you guys like to see true time documentaries, please subscribe to me, because we make the same thing here. And do go follow all of my socials, links given in the description. But with that, I hope that you guys are happy and healthy.